weer by In en Om Tuinroete en ons is alweer in 'n plek wat ek op my beste is. Maar hierdie keer is dit 'n plek waar ek dink baie van ons raak so bietjie soos hulle sê in Engels suicidal as jy een verniet kry. En dis orgidee. Hoeveel van julle weet presies hoe werk orgidee? Wel, ek is nou al 'n hele paar jaar doenig met die goed en ek moet vir julle sê, dit bly maar triekie. Mens weet maar net nie. Nou vandag kuier ons hier by 'n dame, Elsa Hall, en sy bly hier in Blanco en sy groei al orgidee vir baie jare. Ons is hier vandag om te hoor wat kan sy ons klomp leer wat orgidee aanbetref. Kom saam. Elsa, I think you know over all these years that most people don't know a thing about orchids, but you've had it in your life for so many years. Would you mind giving us an overview? Where did it start for you and how did you end up here in Blanco in this little place?
Gosh, now you really are going to get a long story which I'm hoping to condense as much as possible.
We've got the time.
I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so I started with this when I was about 23 years old. And my partner at the time, we were living in Hout Bay on the other side of Cape Town. We had actually grown up and we were sailing. I used to sail on his Hobie Cat. And when we were coming home from Sedana, he said, let's go and visit Mrs. Duckett. She's past family of mine and she's growing orchids. So we went and we visited the Ducketts on a Sunday afternoon. And lo and behold, we ended up going home with 7 cymbidium back bulbs. And there they sat. I didn't know much about them, although my mother had been growing cymbidiums. About 2 months later, we came past again, and he said, I think we're going to get some more of these. So 500 small cymbidiums later came home. And he said, I think you should grow them. So a little shade house arrived, and I was growing them, and I was answering phone calls, and I was starting to sell. And after another 2 or 3 months, my partner said, I don't think this is a good idea at all. You're becoming far too well known and I don't like the phone calls.
God, when can you?
So I looked at my savings and I said, well, how much do you want for them? So he added 100% and I said, fine, I can pay you in 6 months' time. And
you bought it out.
Was the beginning of my orchid collection at the tender age of 23. And I am now 69 and I'm still growing orchids.
Fantastic. You have a beautiful story that it also started with your other hobby, which involves the horses.
Well, the orchids, that partner and I separated after a while. And then I met my second husband and we went to Stellenbosch and we restored a beautiful Cape Dutch house. And the orchids moved there and it was then called Stellenkloof Orchids.
Okay.
So while I was there, I was reintroduced to horses again, which I'd grown up with, and started riding and doing dressage again. So in the back of my mind, I kind of comforted myself with the idea that I'm growing the orchids and I'm trying to make a little profit on this in order to offset it against the expense of the horses. Well, this little balancing act has gone on until today, and we're still growing orchids and we're still riding dressage horses.
And you've got your baby up the road here.
I've got my baby at Olympia, yes.
That's fantastic. Let's get to the orchids itself now. You have an incredible knowledge with all these plants. When you speak, I lose words here and there. But for the layman, which are the ones that you can show us more about? I've noticed the cymbidiums behind me here. That's the one we see in Woolworths and in Pick n Pay and all these places selling that looks like it's the one that people are more confident in purchasing and taking home.
I went from Stellenbosch and we sold our property in Stellenbosch in 2004 and my husband wanted to move up to the garden route. So we spent a lot of time looking and eventually bought a farm at the top of Maitland Street where I had my orchid collection and I had a beautiful state-of-the-art greenhouse and I had a shade house for the cymbidiums. After he passed on, I bought this little plot in Blanco and brought my plants down here. And it was then like a crisis in my life. Am I going to give up orchids or am I going to carry on? And I decided, no, I am going to carry on, primarily because I love the people and I love the customers. So I have now evolved growing the kind of plant that does well in the garden route.
Okay.
So anybody who comes to my nursery, if I have plants to sell and sell them, I can pretty much guarantee that they're going to do well in the area. Anything from Mossel Bay, Stilbaai, right up to Plettenberg Bay have similar to the same conditions.
Explain how you got to that for me.
Well, I used to be a much larger nursery, and then I'd have many different genera for sale. And a number of them were then not suitable for the area.
Okay.
So whether they're Vandas from the Philippines that would take minimum night temperatures of 15 to 18 degrees where you had to heat them, they weren't conducive to the kind of person that I was now going to have here in Blanco. And I've really kind of reinvented myself as a teacher of growing orchids rather than just being there to sell plants. So I'm open on a Wednesday morning only to the public, and anybody can come here at all. They can bring their plants. I have an assistant here called Scott Omeraj, who's also a
Which I also
judge.
believe is a gem.
And we give a free assessment on any plant that's brought here. We give them free advice. They can bring anything here. Once I go into repotting or dividing, or this where I have to use my expertise in the mix, etc., there's a nominal charge per plant.
Okay.
So all of these, I can have people bring their plants on a Wednesday. If I'm busy, they'll leave them on the Wednesday and they'll come the following Wednesday.
Okay. So everything here that you sell will be able to grow anywhere in the garden
in the area. These are all Cymbidiums. They're part of the family called Orchidaceae, and they come in 3 different sizes, which a lot of people don't know. We have a miniature one here, which is really relating to the size or the width of the flower.
Okay.
We have an intermediate one here in the yellow, and the green over here, which is called Valley Zenith, is a standard, all relating to the width of the flower.
Okay.
Then apart from that, we also get something called a pendulous orchid, which would be the white one here.
And it droops down.
And it droops down. Okay. Its name is Sarah Jean, because all of the plants which I sell have names.
Okay.
And that really is their value. So if you buy a plant like this and you want to divide it, you then put the name on both divisions. And when you sell the division, you can tell the person what its name is, and it adds value to the plant. Right.
Okay.
So that miniature one, it'll always be miniature. It'll always be pendulous. And one of its parents is Cymbidium devonianum, and it's in its DNA that it actually has
to hang
So you
down.
might try everything in your power to grow it upright, but it wants to be
the tip will
down.
keep.
Yeah, its tip will keep coming down. They grow very well in this area, the whole area of the garden route. Their basic conditions would be maximum morning sunlight and protection from the midday sun and the harsh afternoon sun. And I try and tell people that if you're sitting outside and you eventually want to put sunglasses on and a hat on, and you're too hot and you're going to put sunscreen on, your plant feels exactly the same. It would also like a little strip of shade cloth above it, maybe a 40 to 50% shading, and that would just be enough protection from the midday sun.
And you said these ones grow outside.
They grow outside.
And that people don't realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
But while they're flowering, you can bring them inside, put them in a decorative pot.
Yes.
And not standing in water. You would take them out of the pot, water them well, feed them if necessary every once a month in winter time, and then replace them in the pot where you can enjoy them until they finish flowering. So it's normally 2 weeks after the last flower has opened, it's a good idea to trim the stem off and put it into water, where it will last for you for another 2 to 3 weeks.
That's right. They actually last long, the flowers, and they open in water.
They do.
They just live.
But as long as you've got a good, strong plant, you can leave them on the plant for about 4 weeks.
Elsa, where exactly do they originate from? Because you said a lot of these guys got from other places. Where did you get these from?
That's a very good question, because it's extremely interesting for growers to know where their original habitat is. So your Cymbidiums are coming from countries like China, Assam, Thailand, some even from Japan, and others from northern Australia. This is where the species hail from. Okay, species as found in their natural habitat.
Gotcha.
So you can then Google and find out what the weather conditions would be. But I can tell you that they are very similar to our conditions here in the garden route, and that's why they do so well.
And China is pretty cold. And
China is very big.
It is very
and it's
big.
not from all parts
Not
of
all
China.
parts.
There are
But they
certain
can
of the Chinese
actually take quite a
provinces.
lot of cold weather too.
They can take our cold weather in the
That's
winter
it.
with no problem at
That's
all.
it. Okay.
It's better to grow them off the ground than on the ground, even if you
Correct.
just lift them with a couple of bricks.
So putting them in the ground is not a good idea. Not in your garden. I tried that and it didn't work. They did
I find
not
the
like
drainage
it.
is just
It's
not
too bad.
good enough.
You are so right.
Yeah,
Very much.
yeah.
So keep it in a pot. But it brings me to what you said earlier, Elsa. You mentioned when we started talking about what will we show today. How many species do you know of?
Well, there are over 30,000 species in the world, all growing in different temperature and climate conditions. So cymbidiums are just one of them. There are many more to do.
Absolutely why we will not actually do them all today. So Elsa, thank you so much for your time today. But we will have one more program with you to show the ladies and the gentlemen back home how to repot. And that's going to be a program on its own. But we will also see you at the Orchid Show in September. Which days are they?
It's the Orchid Society of the Southern Cape.
Okay.
And it's going to be from the 18th to the 20th of September at the Presbyterian Church Hall in Caledon Street in George.
Fantastic.
And then the potting demo will be on Phalaenopsis. So for people who get their plants from Woolworths, I'm going to give you how to grow them and how to repot them.
They're the tricky ones. They're the tricky ones. A cymbidium you can get away with, but those little guys tell you very quickly what you're doing wrong. I'm so looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Elsa. And now remember where to find Elsa Wednesday mornings between 10 and 1 p.m. and she will show you how you can help your beautiful gifts to survive. Until the next time, of sal ek dit in Afrikaans sê, tot 'n volgende keer. Totsiens.